Hello everybody and welcome back to another Magnum OPUS episode. I have a little bit of a quieter session for us today as we talk about a couple of things that sort of put us in a little bit more of a reflective mood. Now, I don't have any interviews for you today. I do not have any fun words to talk about. I don't even have any composers today that I'd really like to talk about. I've been thinking, and I've been asked to share a little bit more about myself, but I want to talk also in the spirit of Opus, and then also I just want to discuss music with everybody. So if you don't know, I am a private music teacher. I'm blessed enough to have 15 students that I teach on Saturdays and Wednesdays, mostly Saturdays. And recently, ever since things went virtual, a lot of my students have had a hard time finding the drive to practice, which is completely understandable. What they say a big issue is when you're in person, you have your teammates, or in this case your stand partner, or your teacher that are always there with you. And naturally as humans, we just, even if you're introvert or an extrovert, whenever you're surrounded by like-minded people, you tend to just focus a little bit more. So if you're in an ensemble of all orchestra students, and everyone around you has an orchestra instrument, you're just invested a little bit more than if you have to practice by yourself, even if it's the same instrument and the same music. So a lot of students have said the hardest part currently about being virtual is just the lack of people that they can interact with that have a like mind and that they still think the same way. So that makes practicing incredibly challenging and very, very difficult. To them, there's no goal that they're really working towards. It's a lot easier to see that goal when you're with people and your teacher's telling you we have a concert in 3 weeks and all that fun stuff. So, how do we combat that? What are some of the best things that we can do? Obviously, it's not going to go away for a little while longer. Or maybe it does, and this whole podcast becomes completely unneeded in 3 weeks or 2 months or a year. That would be phenomenal. But just on the off chance that we still might be having virtual classes for a little bit while longer, I figured this might be a worthwhile discussion. So, what I've told a couple of my students is that, and I hope this podcast has helped bring this idea to life a little bit more, you do not necessarily have to desire music as the number one thing in your life. It's absolutely okay to be well balanced and play music as a hobby, much like it's okay if you play sports as a hobby or you play sports for potential scholarship and you don't want them to be what you do when you graduate college. It's absolutely okay. You can struggle in math, but you can excel in English, or you could struggle in English but excel in history. Everything that you do now is just balancing you out as a person for what you want to do later in your life. It's totally okay. So if music is something that you are having a hard time finding a passion to enjoy right about now, it is never about forcing yourself to do something you don't enjoy. Ideally, music is something that you do enjoy, but it's not like we can just say that. Music's great, so you should enjoy it. Well, there's loads and loads of different facets of music out there, and a facet is a way that you can explore a hobby. So, for example, one way to explore music is obviously by playing an instrument. One way is by composing. One way is just by listening, and one way is to create your own podcast about music and explore your thoughts about it. So really, the bottom line for today, what I really want to get across to everybody, and what I hope that the ends of all of our other podcasts have said, is it is absolutely okay if you might struggle a little bit to have that drive to practice. And if you are finding that music is not exactly the same enjoyment that it has been, Personally, if you don't mind a little bit of a story here, back about a year and a half ago, I was involved in a trumpet quartet and a trumpet quintet, a brass quartet and a brass quintet, where I played trumpet. And that was awesome. We had a few gigs, and I played at a church, and then we had another scheduled gig to come up. So I was making money while I was playing my instrument, and people were listening. That's like the dream. If you've ever been able to make money while playing your instrument, there's something about that feeling, and you're just like, wow. Experience it if you can. However, when things shut down, obviously this quartet and this quintet had to disband, so we were no longer regularly meeting, which means we were no longer regularly practicing, and obviously all of our paid gigs had to get canceled. So that kind of put a dent in my own little thoughts about how I wanted to practice. If there's no goal that you're shooting for, obviously the steps to get there are a lot trickier. So what did I do? I stopped practicing completely. And I fell in a little bit of this rut for actually quite a while. And it really wasn't all that fun. It was sort of a depressive moment where I realized I was not practicing and there was nothing to practice for, and how do you get out of that? There's no good answer that I have for you, even a year later. What I have noticed is now when I practice, there still doesn't really seem to be a goal, aside from I have to keep up my skills so that one day eventually, when I'm able to get out in the world again, I still have the ability to perform for an audience and for money. But now when I pick up an instrument, oddly enough, it becomes this special little surprise, or this little thing that I don't get to do too often. And it is still fun to play. One thing that really helped me is I bought a bunch of duet books, and I sought out a couple duet partners. And it was not something that I ever thought. I always enjoyed playing duets, but I would never do that as an active practice session. And that really, really helped, because now whenever I practice, I think about playing these duets and how much fun they are. And having a good partner is super important as well, and luckily I do. So this ability to practice with somebody, and let me back up a little bit. Playing duets, you can call it practice. You could just call it fun performing or fun practice, because really, I'm not practicing these duets. I am playing them with somebody. And we go back and we rehearse some hard parts, but there's no end goal. We can't perform this for anybody. So you can call that practicing, you can call that just having fun. It's okay. But I think the point to me is that I am having fun, and it's an absolute blast to do these duets. And that is re-sparking myself here. So now as a teacher, I am going back and I'm making sure that I am still top-notch on my instruments, that I can still play everything that I'm teaching my students. And it's given me a little bit more of a drive again to get back in the saddle and to really make sure that, yeah, I'm still a musician. Even with all this time off and with all this time where I was not feeling it, coming back to it has been reinvigorating in a special different way. So I think if I've got to follow that time-honored Opus tradition of giving you a practice technique at the end of these podcasts, I would have to say, find something that can reinvigorate you when you play. Doesn't have to be duets, doesn't have to be chamber music. It could literally just be listening to your favorite composition, your favorite piece, pop song, classic song, I don't care. Something that gets you excited. It could be composing again. Pick up that pencil and pick up exactly where you left off 1 year ago when you stopped composing because you were in a rut. Go back to it. Find a new project or start the same old project again. Whatever it is, I guarantee you, as long as you enjoy it and something that you love, you're going to find that spark again. And it'll burn away a little bit of that anxiety and maybe a little bit of that uncertainty about whether you still enjoy music or not. That is my hope, and that is my big advice for you guys this week. So, I hope that you enjoyed. It was a little bit different, but I don't always just want to interview people and then give you guys awesome composers to listen to, as amazing and fun as that is. But I also want to do my best to offer music advice in the real world, as much advice that a 23-year-old can. So, thank you everybody I really appreciate you listening. If you're still listening to this, I thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you listening this far, and I absolutely hope that you find that spark again, whatever it may be, however you may get back to it. But that is my advice to you this week. That will be my advice to you every week, and I hope that you have an amazing rest of your day.